Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, hello and welcome to another episode of A Day Late and a Dollar Short. My name is Palladia Moores and I'll be your host for the day. Now, the quick and the dirty on this. It's an 8 out of 10. This has a great storyline, some good characters, and a good solid combat system that is unfortunately hampered by some really poor design choices. Like, holy crap, what were they thinking design choices? And that's about all for that. So if that's all you were here for, then thank you very much for joining me and take it easy. Now, for the rest of you, before I really get started, I have to admit something. And that's that I had a very hard time placing this game. And as opposed to what you might think, it's not because of some overwhelming love for it. Actually, it's that my hatred of the draw system had calcified into this just absolute ball of disgust, so that I'd forgotten how fun the actual game itself was. I had to go back through it, play a little bit of it, look up some videos, and even just listening to this, watching this, helped me remember that this is a solid game. It just had some issues that, oh, really drag it down. Okay, now with that being said, buckle up, and let's start this ride. Alright, for the good. Okay, now, when I rate graphics on these games, you have to keep in mind that I'm rating them for the time the game came out. Obviously, by today's standards, what we're looking at is pretty gross, just to be honest. I mean, I'm still okay with it, but I would understand why someone would look at this in a nowadays point of view and go, you know what, that's kind of dated looking, because it is. But for the time, these graphics were beautiful. They were absolutely amazing. They were better than anything we had seen at the time, which is past this point, past Final Fantasy IX is sort of a hallmark for the Final Fantasy series. So yeah, going into it, I can tell you, it was a really pretty game. A really pretty game. Past that, combat. Combat was really solid. Personally, I thought combat was overall a step down from Final Fantasy VII, but that did not mean that it was bad combat. It did some things right where Final Fantasy VII did some things wrong. Well, that's not entirely true. I can't remember anything that 7 did wrong insofar as its combat was concerned, but it did some things a little bit better. Limit breaks were not one of those, but I'll get to those cons here in a little bit, because this is one of those videos where I'm going to give a pro on something and then give a con on it later. So it sounds like I'm contradicting myself, but I'll have to explain. Alright, story. The story is really solid. This is probably the best romance story told in a Final Fantasy. It's really good. You really come to like the characters. But it does have its issues, which is the other contradiction I'm going to get to, because this is going to go on the pros and in the cons. The music, however, is all pro. The music in this game was absolutely stunning. It was amazing, and it also introduced us to Eyes on Me, which is still one of the best game music scores, songs. You know what I'm trying to say? It was fantastic. And even better, insofar as I'm concerned with that song, is it was woven into the storyline. It wasn't a super important part of it, but if you paid attention to the little hints and subtle nuances, you knew where it belonged. And it belonged in the game, and it was really fantastic for that. Now, unfortunately, we come to all the cons. I'll save the worst for last, like I tend to do. But starting off first, the story it overused the amnesia gimmick, and I hate that personally. They try to explain it away. Oh yeah, no, the Guardian forces make it to where, oh, you forget. Except for one character who never used Guardian forces. And listen, insofar as an excuse it goes, I guess it's serviceable, but it always felt flat to me. That Squall had all these things that you meet within the storyline, all these people you meet that he knew years ago, but oh, he forgot because of the Guardian forces he just started using. And yet he doesn't recognize Rain at the start of the game, even though he's not technically used Guardian forces yet. I mean, you can't explain that away by saying, oh, well, they've been training with Guardian forces, so he's actually used them before now. Which, again, I guess is a passable excuse, but for some reason just feels flat to me, and it really affects the story in a number of places. You also have things like a time paradox. This ending, dear Lord, this ending. I like this ending. This ending is better than Final Fantasy VII's, but it still leaves us with a loop where it's never explained where the sorceress originally came from, and it doesn't give us a clear solution. It's just going to be looping throughout time. Now, that being said, before I continue, no, Squall did not die at that point. There was no blood because this is Final Fantasy back in the day, and there was no blood back then. Do you remember when Aeris got skewered by Sephiroth? Do you remember all the blood there? No, neither do I. That's because they didn't animate it. And I can't remember the first Final Fantasy that started animating blood. Was it 15? Because I know it wasn't. It was a long time in the future. And actually, now that I'm thinking about it, oh no, there's blood in 15. There's blood in 15. I was gonna say I couldn't remember any. I don't remember in 13. or 13-2, or you know what? I think they've just now started doing blood. So no, Squall did not die there, and the rest of it is not him having delusions before he goes. All right, that out of the way. Oh, the draw system, the draw system, the draw system, the draw system. If you guys remember how much I raged on the draw system in Final Fantasy 15. Okay, this isn't that bad. This isn't as bad as that one, but it's still bad due to a number of factors. First off is the draw system itself means that you have to find enemies that have the correct corresponding spells, which means that you have to go hunting for them, which means that if you're in an area that has an enemy that doesn't have the spells that you want, then you're just out of luck. Now, there are draw points on the map, but those are about as useful as an umbrella and a hurricane. Alright, they're going to give you a few spells, and you can actually beef up the number of spells through abilities through Guardian Forces, but for the most part, it's spitting in the wind. And to go further, you need those spells to beef up your stats using Guardian Forces. Guardian Forces can juncture your spells into stats to make you stronger in an area. And unfortunately, what that means is that if you start using your spells, your stats start to drop. So you don't want to use your spells for fear of losing stats. And it's kind of a bad situation where you don't want to use the abilities you have. But that being said, while I'm saying that, Guardian Forces make up more than the brunt of the damage you're going to be doing insofar as magic damage goes. Because they cover magic damage. I can talk. Magic damage goes because they cover the gamut of all the elements you need. They're free, and they act as a shield while they're being cast. So they give you all sorts of benefits, but at the same time, the duration on those things is absolutely ridiculous. And I love the Guardian Forces. 100% I love them. I mean, the animations, but eventually you want to skip them. In this game, not only can you not do that, but long animations are important so that you can beef up the damage they do. Okay, what else? I think that actually about covers it for the cons, but that Ka on the draw system is just, it was such a huge one for me. I hated it so much, and it took away so much of my enjoyment from the game. What else was I going to say? Let's see. I think that about covers it all. If you guys can't see me, I'm I'm counting off on my fingers. I'm like, did I cover everything I meant to cover? Yeah, no. Okay, one more slight con is that the characters never get the full customization they really deserve. Not customization. That's not the word I'm looking for. That's not right. Oh, I might be a little tired, guys. They never get the full development that they deserve. The two main characters do. And the villain, one of the villains does, to an extent. But the rest of the characters in your party are just sort of there for the duration and never really developed. Selphie and Irvin get a little bit, but for the most part. Oh, I'm going to put this on cons, but it's not really a huge thing. That's that they made limit breaks less accessible here and more accessible here. Which, if it sounds weird, that's because it is. Here, they actually went back to the Final Fantasy VI way of doing limit breaks, which is when they would only go off when you're on low health. Here's better than there, though, because you can keep passing your turn until limit break pops on up on your screen. But I don't think limit breaks were as well done here. 7 set the bar for limit breaks, and 10 copied it to an extent. But you've got Braveheart, which is okay. And that's really about the only standout limit break. Irvin's is just he shoots a bunch of shots. Kestis is blue magic, but suffers from the same issue of Kamari and Tin, that her blue magic doesn't hit very hard. So while limit breaks are here, and they are fun, they are a step down from the predecessor. Alright, I think that's it. Yeah, thank you guys very much for joining me. As I said, this game is an 8 out of 10. It's worth it if you can sit through the graphics or play the PC version and get a graphics mod, then it's absolutely worth it. But it has its issues. Just know that going in, that it has its issues. Alright. Thank you guys very much for joining me. I really do appreciate it. If you enjoyed this, you can feel free to hit the like button. I won't complain at all. If you'd like to see more, there's the sub button. It's just waiting for you. And I will be seeing you.